Nintendo Entertainment System owners may have had Final Fantasy, but if you were a Sega fan, then you had access to a completely different kind of fantasy. I'm of course talking about the curiously spelled Phantasy Star franchise, which started its life on the Sega Master System in 1987 and is still going strong today, with the latest installment being Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. With all this talk about Final Fantasy XVI, I wondered how Phantasy Star compared. More specifically, what did Electronic Gaming Monthly say about this long-running series? Now, in case you're wondering, EGM reviewed a total of 10 games in the Phantasy Star franchise. That includes 3 of the main installments, 1 compilation, and 6 Phantasy Star Online titles. They hit pretty much everything except for the 8-bit original, which was released 2 years before the magazine even started up. What we're going to do today is count down the best and worst Phantasy Star games using Electronic Gaming Monthly's own words and scores. There's no editorializing here, we're just going to focus on what the critics said back when these games first came out. So go and grab your energy sword and your favorite mag, because this is another futuristic episode of EGM Ranks Phantasy Star.
Sega はロールプレイングゲームも変えてしまう。ファンタシースター。かつてない驚異のグラフィック。壮大な SF ストーリー。その秘密は4メガ。ファンタシースター。
Up first at number 10, we have Phantasy Star Universe on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. Wait, somebody out there actually enjoys Phantasy Star Universe's story mode? That's kooky talk. But that mess isn't what really bothers me, it's the online play that doesn't quite cut it. Specifically, it's insulting to series fans like myself that Sega handicapped the online content out of the gate. Also, the new item-creating bots aren't quite as appealing as the now absent over-the-shoulder megs, and the visuals don't stack up to PSOs. I'm digging the 6-man parties and the evolved combat, but I just expected more. Number 9, Phantasy Star Online version 2 on the Dreamcast. In case you missed my review of the original Phantasy Star Online, I was a huge fan. Sure, the single player sucked, but the character building and online social aspects were so addictive that I thought every console gamer should give it a try. Version 2 is basically the same game, so I feel the same way. But if you've played the first, it's a bit disappointing. Many minor annoyances remain, there's no new classes or true levels, battle mode is sloppy, lobby soccer is a joke, and the extra $15 fee sucks. The only cool additions are the challenge mode, hopefully no more cheating, and some of the new items. Is it worth another purchase? For me, barely. Number 8, Phantasy Star 4 on the Genesis. I must admit, at first glance, this game just didn't look too great. It took quite some playing for the story to progress, but once it did, you get involved. There's a good selection of magic weapons and other assorted role-playing game items to keep you happy. The only drawbacks were the lack of graphic detail and the fact that the music can get annoying. However, it is still a top RPG with enough gameplay to get you wrapped up in it. Number 7, Phantasy Star 2 on the Genesis. Role-playing games aren't my thing, but this one has a monstrous quest anyone can get involved with and lost in. Plan to spend many days solving the 6-meg brain buster. I wish the battle scenes were on a landscape instead of a horrid blue grid, but all in all, Phantasy Star 2 is presented well. Number 6, Phantasy Star 3 on the Genesis. One of the best role-playing games ever. Phantasy Star 3 blows away the previous games, although it isn't necessarily more challenging overall. The game throws in a lot of new features, like different generations, who will each encounter their own quest to overcome. It's an awesome RPG. Number 5, Phantasy Star Collection on the Game Boy Advance. I missed out on the Phantasy Star series up until now, but almost everything that I've heard was true. The first 2 games hold up surprisingly well. Great characters, interesting stories, and lively, colorful graphics highlight the soul-crushingly difficult old-school quests. Phantasy Star 3 isn't nearly as bad as I'd heard, but it's still a mediocre RPG that fails to live up to its heritage. But it's hard to complain when you're getting 2 classics and Phantasy Star 3 at such a bargain price. Just be prepared for a challenge. Number 4, Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast. Phantasy Star Online is a beautiful, beautiful game, easily one of the best looking I've ever seen. But as a single-player game, it's also one of the most boring and monotonous that I've ever experienced. Going into the same level 20 times on fetch quests and fighting the same boring enemies thousands of times isn't exactly my idea of fun. The monster AI is crap, there are tons of collision problems, and the lock-on is weak. Thankfully, though, the online part of Phantasy Star Online's name isn't just there for show. This title really is meant to be played on the internet, and as a multiplayer game, it succeeds wonderfully. Number 3, Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, C.A.R.D Revolution on the GameCube. Episode 3 is like going to a strip club. There's a whole lot of teasing going on, but the true prize/goal is frustratingly inaccessible. For most PSO fans, this C.A.R.D game detour, complete with new graphics, will only make you want a real action RPG sequel even more. Be that as it may, Episode 3 will please deep thinkers. It's a lot more complicated than your typical C.A.R.D game, with multiple layers of attack, defense, strategy to worry about. Naturally, pursuing those ultra-rare cards is what keeps you playing, but if you like simpler adventures, stay away. Number 2, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 on the Xbox. To paraphrase Michael Corleone, just when I thought that I was out of PSO, it pulls me back in. With so many ways to customize and improve your character, this wildly addictive game is once again keeping me up all night, even 2 years after I first started playing it. Gripes? I have a few. Some graphics still pop into view, the camera in split screen is atrocious. Still, voice chat makes up for this, by far the best version of an already amazing experience. And number 1, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 on the GameCube. Stay away from this game. Sure, it appears innocent enough. You might even think that it looks repetitive and mindless. It is. But if you dare play it, Phantasy Star Online will, ever so slowly, sink its addictive claws into your brain, never to let go, even after you've beaten it once, or twice, or more. The hook is the pacing. PSO drip feeds you just enough experience points and rare items that you'll be back again and again to get more and more. And since this disc has 2 full games, don't think that you're going to be able to kick this habit easily. Split screen, however, isn't all it's cracked up to be. Bad camera angles plus tiny screens equals massive frustration.
Battle story, Phantasy Star, the end of the millennium, from Mega Drive.
Hey, thanks for watching us break down these Phantasy Star reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we have a whole playlist full of episodes that are just like this one, including Mario, Sonic, Final Fantasy, Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Bonk, Batman, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and dozens more. Definitely give that playlist a binge. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite Phantasy Star game? Are you partial to the single-player, story-based games, or do you prefer the newer online installments? Personally speaking, I wish that Sega would get somebody from, I don't know, like the Persona team or something to work on a proper Phantasy Star sequel, or even a reboot. I really do feel like this is one of those franchises that could easily be brought back, and it could be huge. Hell, it could lend itself well to a modern television show. Okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but you get the point. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with more stuff. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,